Hey everybody, welcome back to Engagement Academy. This is the show brought to you by a disengaged employee who obsessed over workplace psychology and in some kind of divine joke from the universe was paid to have an HR podcast in a way that turned into this. If you're new here, I had a show called Flip Flops and People Ops, which was like me as a product marketer working for an HR tech company. And I said, I know a lot about what our customers are saying. There's a ton of patterns about how HR has no time and no bandwidth and no budget to make an impact. And I think there could be like a really great angle here for a show. And that show went so well that now we do this Engagement Academy. It's evolved into like level 2. So welcome, however long you've been listening. My Aunt Kelly, shout out to Aunt Kelly. She's like, Christy, I don't really always understand what you're talking about, but my dear, it is so fun to listen to you, but you speak so quickly. So thank you, dear Aunt Kelly, for loving on me from Florida while I live in Austin and giving me that constructive criticism. So here I go to speak a little more slowly. But I'm not going to give the whole, I have ADHD and I don't know what I'm going to say before I'm going to say it, although I know it's usually 9 times out of 10 very intelligent and tactical. She's right. I've listened back and been like, I know what I'm saying, but I could see how my Chicago ADHD is hard to keep up with. Anyway, I just got back from a trip to Nashville, Tennessee, where Beekeeper, a software for companies with frontline employees who I adore. I just got back from being their keynote speaker from their Frontline Success Summit, and we had such a good gathering for people in HR, in operations, in internal comms, which internal comms sits on marketing teams sometimes. And I guess I could see that. But like if your title is internal comms, that makes you very employee centered. So you should have a job title that more accurately reflects what you're doing. Because if you're sitting on a marketing team, that means you're doing external stuff too, which you're doing 2 jobs for 1 salary. Oops. It's okay. I've done the same. I'm a people pleaser who's like, let me make myself indispensable and burn myself out to make up for my childhood trauma of not being enough. Am I enough? Am I enough, everybody? So I just got back from that event where I had so much fun, but like hadn't spent a lot of time. I had so much fun talking to people in HR and those types of roles, key leadership roles. Those are critical pieces of the business behind the scenes. But it was such a good exercise and time for me to spend back face to face with you guys where you all are doing so much. And it's so fulfilling for me that my job gets to be to remind you that there's nothing wrong with you and that you're doing a lot. And I just wanted to touch on the angle of my keynote, which I was pretty proud of. I take my speeches super seriously to the point of making myself sick because I love it so much. And I try to find the best metaphors and the best examples to get through to all of you in ways that no one has taken the time to make sure that you're okay. So I got a lot of feedback from the people at this event that this was exactly what they needed to hear and they feel a lot less crazy. But the other thing I want to say before I tell you the key takeaway of my speech that everybody loved was a lot of the people at the event would be in the lobby during different sessions, breakout sessions and workshops. And I would be running to the bathroom or running back up to my room to grab more business cards. And I would run into you all and I'd say, what are you doing? And you would say, oh, I'm processing payroll. Oh, we have to let someone go. Oh, I have to attend this meeting that stinks, but I'm on the leadership team and we get nothing accomplished and we just kind of all report our numbers to the CEO. And it's not lost on me how much you all do. I finally see it from the disengaged camp where I was like, what does HR do other than scare us and make us think that you're not our friend? And it's like, oh my God, you guys do so much. You're at an event where you finally get to connect with people just like you and learn bleeding edge new ideas and sit with some storytelling with people at the event to hear what's worked for them so you can have a bank of ideas for when the time comes for you to have a recognition program or whatever it is. But you're so needed in the business and you're the glue that holds everything together in the background. And it's just really hard for you to even attend an event without an emergency or some kind of fire drill where you're not even there. You've taken time off to go invest in your learning and your career and your networking, and you are owed that. And you're still sitting in the lobby processing payroll. Like, you guys are amazing. Amazing. So that said, every time I ran into one of you, I was like, your team is too small. We need to scale your team. And I have a script for that in my community. So let me just tell you the main takeaway of my speech, whether you were at the event or not, because I thought it was good. But when I got a bunch of good positive feedback on it, I knew it was something worth taking to the show. And it's that when you work in any kind of HR internal comms or ops role, it can be really easy to pretend like you're accidentally make the mistake to think that you're a character in the movie. If you think of daily life at your company as a movie that you are in, you can feel like things are happening to you and you're part of the cast and the daily chaos and anarchy of what's unfolding in Gotham City. If you want to assume your movie is Batman, I think enough people understand the concept of Batman. There's a really bad guy. There's the Joker. There's Gotham City, and all the people are always in some kind of strife because bombs are going off and people are being kidnapped and held hostage and banks are being robbed, and it's just unsafe. And if you're not paying attention, it can feel like you're just one of the extras in the movie running away from the chaos and the Joker and the explosions in the street. And my examples that I gave are when you are given negative employee feedback, when the surveys come back an angry, hot mess, dumpster fire of everything that's wrong with the business and all the ways that employees are upset, it can be so easy to shut down and feel like you're being attacked. But if you instead position yourself as the director of the movie, where you're not in it, you're not acting in it, but you need to get the right scenes in order to make a compelling story, when you get that negative employee feedback, that was a critical scene of you being able to do your job. You in HR or ops or comms, you need to know how people feel and what they're not getting to understand what they need to get in order to experience the opposite, which is a connected, engaged workforce. The global workforce is disengaged. So when you get negative employee feedback, it might feel like you're failing at your job, but the global workforce is disengaged, and it costed the global economy $8.8 trillion last year. Oops, in lost productivity and people just kind of nonchalantly quiet quitting or just bopping along in their job because they hate it. Engagement is an emotional measurement of how employees feel about the company. So most companies don't have it figured out. So it makes sense that you have negative employee survey results. That's also a good thing. That's a indication that your workforce wants to talk to you and that they trust that you're going to do something with the information. So there were 2 moments where I was don't forget, you're not in the film. When you get negative survey results, don't go woe is me, I'm such a loser, what's wrong with me, oh my God, it's so bad. Nope. You're in the director's chair cut. That scene went perfectly. That's exactly what I needed. The negative feedback are the answers to your disengagement test. Then I talk about how you need to make sure your scenes are in order. So I'll include screenshots of this in the show notes. I talk about the employee hierarchy of needs. If you imagine a film being shot on location, you don't shoot everything in the order it would happen in the film because you do post-production and there's editing. You get the scenes when the lighting is good and when the actors are ready. And the metaphor there was just because employees say they don't feel recognized at work or that they don't feel like they have a path to grow means that you put career pathing and a recognition program at the forefront of what you're doing, because most companies are stuck at the bottom of the rung of the employee hierarchy of needs, which is I know what's expected of me at work, and more manager focused expectation setting. A lot of the reasons programs and employee initiatives will flop is because employees are not ready for certain aspects of your employee experience to be better because really critical other parts are still not fixed. So just you can't put a roof on the top of a house that doesn't have walls. If you just built the foundation and you try and build a roof, it's impossible, obviously. I was going to say it would fall down. You couldn't even put a roof together because there's nothing for it to sit on. That's why programs fail. So you have to remember, again, you're the director. You got to put your scenes in order. So when you get that blow your hair back negative feedback, you then map it to the employee hierarchy of needs and say, where do we need to start for things to make the most impact? And oftentimes it's people not having a clear idea of what's expected of them, whether that's their job description or a combination of how does your company, if you have knowledge workers, how are you guys managing your project? You need to have some coaching or some consultant come in or let the whole company take time to learn their project management tool. Get clear on goals and what does success look like? Because for me personally, we would have company goals, sometimes individual goals, but they never really were clear. And if you didn't hit them, you didn't always get in trouble. It was just companies knew they needed goals, but they weren't put together very well. There weren't always consequences if you didn't hit them, or there wasn't a clear path or conversations with our managers to talk about how we were going to accomplish them. So you're kind of left alone to figure it out, and it stinks. And that's a lot of stress, which causes employees to quit and quiet quit because they're what's the point? This place is so scary and upsetting emotionally because I don't know know how to get this done or like what I'm being measured against. Like, am I going to get in trouble? Like, why am I being left alone to figure this out in a vacuum of stress? So when you put in a peer recognition program, we're like, cool. I don't even know if I have a job next week. I was always guilty of the like, I feel like I'm going to be fired every 2 seconds because I was fired in the past. For now that I reflect back, it wasn't clear what was expected of me. And I was working so hard at those jobs and it was gut wrenching to get fired because I felt like I was trying so hard, but I didn't know what I was being measured against. And to then be told like, you're not doing enough. It was like, I wasn't working on the right things, but nobody told me. So a lot of employees have this fear that keeps them stuck on the bottom rung of like, am I doing enough? Am I doing the right stuff? How am I being graded? And then we get a performance review and we're whacked upside the head with something our manager said or thinks that they like randomly put together because managers are very busy and they don't often have time to put together proper performance reviews. So you have to put your scenes in order, meaning like when employees are all crying out for help, don't work on the loudest thing, work on something that's the bottom of the rung so that your movie goes like in chronological order. Okay. You're still the director of the film. This was the third takeaway of this director metaphor is that your executives are your method actors. When you get the negative employee feedback and you figure out what to work on and you go to your executive team and you say, this is what I'm going to work on. I need budget. Again, we have a script for all of this in my community, in the Community Engagement Academy. But then when your executives try to block you and say, we don't have time for that. We don't have budget for that. That's not a priority right now. Don't focus on that. I'm going to tell you to go do career mapping because that's what stuck out to me when I looked at the negative survey results. Don't take your method actors for face value. Don't go face to face with Batman or the Joker and think that as an extra in the movie, you're going to go toe to toe with them because you're not. You're going to accidentally slip into people pleasing mode of fear and like a lack mentality because you want to keep your job. What you need to remember is that you're the director of the film. You wouldn't let the Joker send boxes of snakes to your employees or Batman like actually literally use their propelling gun around set thinking that they're really Batman. You'd be like, hey man, we want to make the most out of this film. Let's pretend they're your executives again. But you would say like, I know you think we may not have time for this or the budget or da-da-da-da-da. You figure out what they care about. The employees are our revenue drivers. The employees are closest to our customers and the innovation and the productivity and growth that you want so badly for this business to expand and stay around for a long time or to scale in the way that you want it to. I want to make sure that happens. This is what our revenue drivers are saying. This is what the people who drive our growth are saying they need in order to do their best work. If we don't believe them, we're not going to get to the revenue targets that you care so much about. We're not going to hit the metrics that I know you're paying attention to. And you have to know what those metrics are. You have to have someone on your team has to have a relationship with your executives in a way that you know what keeps them up at night because everyone at your company kind of speaks a different language. I have a slide from my deck that I'll put in the show notes that's like executives care about money and growth. Managers care about productivity. Operations people, you care a lot about innovation and like efficiency. When you're talking to someone and trying to change their mind, you can't talk about it from what you care about. Well, the people are saying this, but you got to just trust me. Like executives don't care about your hunch. They need data and they need you to put it in their language because they're busy and they're stuck in their own trauma response of like keeping the business alive. That's rooted in their childhood. A lot of executives they grew up very poor or they grew up with parents who they felt like they were never enough. So now in their adult life, they're trying to prove themselves, but their like biggest enemy is themselves. They're their own worst critic. So if you can get into their soft inner core, which I promise is there, they have families. I talk to them not in the boardroom and I'm like, oh, you're lovely. You're just so-and-so with kids and like you're doing a lot. But in the boardroom, they're like, we gotta go. This isn't good enough. We gotta push harder. It's like, okay, well, we need to do that with the people in mind. And the people actually have the answers to the revenue and the growth that you want so bad because they're the ones doing it. So although employees say it in their language, like, I don't have access to the right tools. My manager is traumatizing me. These meetings wander. I don't have any definition or measuring stick of done. That is not employees complaining. That is employees saying in their own words, which is what they care about. They just want to do their best work. So even though everyone has different priorities, I said in the presentation too, where I outlined what everyone cares about, I said, HR cares about people and solving problems. Your employees just want to do their best work. Managers want productive teams. Operations leaders want efficiency and innovation. And executives want growth and revenue. And everyone talks in those terms. It can feel like everyone's speaking a different language. But when you're the director of the film and you're not just focused on what you care about, which is solving problems and helping people, if you think about it holistically, everybody wants the same thing, because when you solve problems to help people do their best work, you get more productive teams, which leads to more efficiency and innovation, which leads to more growth and revenue. It's all connected. Don't make the mistake of thinking you're an extra in the film and you're an actor reacting to the explosives and bullying and the chaos and the bad decision making. You are directing the film. And you have a lot more control and influence than you think when you tap into your higher self. Okay? You are not in the film. You are the director. Do not panic when you get negative employee feedback. That is a critical scene in your movie. Do not put your scenes out of order. Use the employee hierarchy of needs. Talk to people in terms that they care about so that you can actually get the best out of your actors. And remember that your executives are method actors. Do not buy into their facade that you do not know what you're doing. They don't always know what they're doing, okay? I said it. I've listened to them talk and I'm like, oh my God, you've forgotten the golden rules so badly. And you think you're going to brute force your way into growth? You might for a few quarters, old pal. But I know where this movie's headed. I've seen this movie before. And so you got to love on them and be like, Batman, Joker, I love this for you. But to get the most out of this scene, think about it this way. They'll listen to you once you learn their language. I also have a cheat sheet in the community about how to speak fluent revenue with the top 20 money-focused metrics that executives use and examples of how they use it and examples of how you could use it to change their mind. So this was a longer episode. I'll include some screenshots of my deck from my presentation. I was pretty proud because there are hand-drawn stick figures, and that's what people said they actually loved the most. And I think I will forever with my content be very basic and with my storytelling have a lot more fun, because who wants to go to an HR conference and hear people use buzzwords and have really polished slides? It's actually hard to pay attention. So my content is a little bit more hey, actually, let's break you out of sleepwalking mode and literally though, hear this. You're not an actor in the film. You're the director. Everything was within your power to direct a better film that actually makes sense, and one that you actually want to be a part of, and one that you want to have your name on the bottom, that you actually were the orchestrator of it all, but you don't have to be the center of it all. All right. I love you guys. Make sure you have hobbies, drink water, get some rest, do things outside of work to have an identity, because I kind of lost myself there for a long time and I found myself again, and I found myself from having balance again. Okay? Life is messy, but if yours is extra falling apart right now, that's a sign that something good is coming to you. You got to release what's not meant for you for you to receive what is. I love you. You're doing great. I'll talk to you next week. Bye, friends.